Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us today. Our focus for this Facebook Live is to bring you up to date on the sales tax and how the revenue raised benefits our students. I'm Superintendent Ken Savage, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Since voters entrusted us by approving the sales tax 3 years ago this month, it has provided more than $228 million and now makes up 1/3 of the revenue of our capital budget. We are bound by the referendum to spend the money on construction, maintenance, safety, security, and technology. We are ever thankful the community entrusted us with the sales tax and diligently working to maintain that trust. With increased cost and supply chain issues, we are being extremely judicious with every expenditure. The improvements made possible by the sales tax are very noticeable. We have 2 new schools in the East Zone and are about to start a 3rd. We also have done things like replace roofs, install new air conditioners, improve surveillance systems, upgrade cabinets, buy new desks and cafeteria tables, and enhance learning with interactive visual systems in schools across the county. To get started with our presentation today, let me turn it over to Rob Spicker, our Assistant Director in our Communications Department.
All right, thank you, Dr. Savage, and thank you again as well to everybody that's out watching us, either right now live or later at their convenience. We do have an opportunity for you to present your questions to us about the sales tax and the issues that are going to be raised in this presentation, so you can place those right in the comment section. And we solicited some earlier through our special email address, Facebook Live at leeschools.net. We'll get to those at the end of our presentation. So to get us started, find out where we are and where we're going 3 years into the sales tax, let me introduce Dr. Amy Desamore, the Chief Financial Officer, and the Executive Director in Financial Services, Susan Millay, to begin our presentation. Dr. Desamore?
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having us here today. We're very excited to talk about the incredible impact that the sales tax has had on our district and just the amazing things we've been able to do for students in this 3-year time period since we've had the sales tax. So just to go through some information related to the sales tax, this year our capital revenue, or our total amount of revenue that we have within our budget to accomplish capital type purposes, is $265 million approximately. This year, the sales tax represents $87 million of that, or 33% of our capital revenue. So that just goes to underscore how important it was that we were able to get this initiative underway and that the taxpayers entrusted us with this ability to have these sales tax, because fully 1/3 of what we now have in order to enhance our facilities, our maintenance, our technology, build new schools across the district, we would not have had that opportunity had it not been for these important funds. So that just underscores what a huge impact these dollars have made in just a short period of time. With the budget, you see this pie graph illustrates how we have distributed the budget for this year in terms of sales tax. Now, while I said that the revenue for this year was $87 million, you see the total sales tax budget for this year is closer to $160 million, and that is because that is cumulative of dollars that we've received in previous years that we've not yet spent. So the total sales tax budget for this year is $160 million, and this pie graph shows that there's a pretty even distribution of those funds in the different categories that we spend it in. We told the taxpayers when we went out for this referendum that we would focus on 4 different categories in which we would expend these funds: technology, maintenance, new construction, and safety. And this year's budget is a pretty even distribution in terms of how those dollars will be spent and where they will be spent. You'll see that that construction slice is a little bit smaller only because those expenses are paid for over a longer period of time than just a couple of years. So most of the new construction that we have going on with our sales tax, we're either going to pay those buildings completely inside of the time span in which the sales tax lasts, or some of the repayment of those, costs for building new schools will go even beyond that period. So those expenses will show over a period of time, and so that's why that slice seems to be a little bit smaller. But other than that, a pretty even distribution and a lot of things happening within each one of those categories. We have many new schools that we're building, but we also have many of our schools, over 100 buildings out there, that we need to maintain, and it's important that we provide every student that we have with the optimal learning environment in order to maximize student achievement. So that being said, we'll go into a little bit of detail about some of those major schools and renovations, as well as some of the maintenance that's going on inside of our buildings.
Thank you, Dr. Desamore. As Dr. Desamore and Dr. Savage alluded to, we have already completed the construction of 2 new schools and a major renovation at Lehigh Senior School. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming plans for major projects and renovations. So the J Elementary School and the MM Middle School addition are underway. And in addition to that, we have a couple of schools that will be our age schools, Franklin Park Elementary and Cypress Lake Middle, that will we have received authorization to go ahead and tear down and rebuild those schools. So initiatives are underway for that. And additionally, we have the Riverdale High School remodel that will be taking place on one of our older campuses, and the Fort Myers Tech remodel, so that we can have continuing education and job force skills coming our way in expanded numbers in Lee County. Here's an example of a couple of projects that we brief our oversight committee on. All of our projects are validated and by the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee to ensure that we're spending our funds where we promise to do so. So some of our major heating, ventilation, and air conditioning projects, or our ACs and chiller projects, over $1 million are listed. And this is just an example, again, of how the projects are being independently validated as in compliance with how we said we spend our funds. There are some other significant budgeted projects. Safety improvements are occurring on all campuses. They will continue to grow, and we have already experienced safety improvements on all of our campuses. And as technology evolves and security opportunities arise, we will also continue investing there. Technology and maintenance are other areas where we continue to make our commitments as we agreed to do so, and we'll give you a few examples of some of those specific projects. So here's a list of major categories of maintenance services projects that have been completed, and we're going to run through and show you a few pictures of those projects. Here are some cabinet upgrade projects at San Carlos Park Elementary and Edgewood Elementary. So you can see the new cabinets and the items that were replaced. And this provides a better learning environment, instructional environment, our media center improvements, et cetera, all around with the cabinet upgrades really help our students and our staff increase the learning process. Here's an exciting area, the Switchgear upgrade projects. So in many of our campuses, what's happening behind the scenes, the maintenance of our facilities and the important systems that run those. Here are some illustrations of the new equipment that's in place to assist with managing our campuses every day. Upcoming projects that we will be investing in our schools, there's a wide variety of maintenance services. You can see that on the graph. These, again, are items that we committed to the public that we would invest in improving our schools for an increased learning environment and to make our students and staff successful every day. Some of the examples of upcoming projects, individual schools are listed here that show some of the programs that'll be working. And I do want to let you know that you can check every individual school and the total district projects on our sales tax dashboard website. So for example, if you were attending or your children were attending Villas Elementary, you could go and check out all the things that have happened historically and are planned for the year at Villas Elementary School. So it's a great piece of a great source of information for our parents, and we'll have that website displayed in a moment for you. Here's an additional list of many of the projects that are upcoming this year and will be funded with our sales tax dollars.
So important to note with many of these projects that you see listed here, there is a mix of different things, both aesthetics and more infrastructure type projects that combine in order to hopefully get a full picture or a full gamut of the types of things that we're doing with our sales tax. So items like replacing windows, replacing roofs, replacing blinds, replacing the switchgear or the electrical components inside of the building. These are the types of things that extend the life of our assets in order to make sure that they run efficiently and also save us operational dollars on things like utilities, electricity, things like that, because they help our schools run more efficiently. But then other things that you may see, things like, blind replacement or flooring or, blinds, things like that. The cabinets, those are things that they're functional, but they're also a little bit more aesthetically pleasing so that there is a pleasant environment within each of the schools, again, optimizing the learning environment for students that are there, for staff that teach and work there, and for our parents and community that come in and enjoy, all of the activities that take place within our schools each day. So all of these things combine to make very important type projects that we need to do in order to adequately maintain our schools. Here you see some information related to historical collections for sales tax revenue. All of this information was as of September 14th, and so as you see, we show some information related to projections in terms of what we projected at that time we would collect from each of our sales tax dollars. And then the blue line shows what we actually collected in each of those years. So you'll see from the inception of the sales tax to the end of fiscal year 21, which was June 30th of 2021, we collected $204.7 million in sales tax revenue over that time period. Then you'll see specifically what we collected in fiscal year 21, which ended again in June 30th, 2021 of about $88 million, and then the small piece we had collected so far in this fiscal year. But as Dr. Savage mentioned a little bit earlier in the presentation, at this point in time, from inception to date, $228 million we've been able to collect from the sales tax revenue effort, all of it going toward all of these different projects that we've been discussing so far this morning. So it's quite amazing and just really fascinating to see how all of those efforts are coming together to create some great projects that are taking place throughout all of our schools in the district. This graph is a little bit more for the people who really want to geek out on the numbers to see over the years how we've collected and how those years compare to each other. So each of the different colors, each of the different lines or the color lines represent a different year in how we've collected. That light blue line is fiscal year 21, so that's at the top. So you see from fiscal year 19, which was the dark blue line where we started, up through this year or fiscal year 21, you see how the collections inside of each month to month, how they compare to each other. So we track this information and we look at that so that we can determine if there are any trends there and be able to inform our projections going forward in the future so that we can plan appropriately for what we believe we'll receive through the end of the sales tax period so that we can plan our projects appropriately as well. This is just another way to depict that. So this is actually in graphical and number form each year, what month that was, when we actually collected that money. So in other words, in June, if the sales tax month is June, we really didn't receive those funds from the state until August. So we usually run a couple months behind in terms of the collections from the state. And it kind of shows, month over month, what the projection was for that month, and then what we received and the difference between those things. Again, we are tracking those pretty diligently so that we can make sure that we have appropriate projections moving forward and that we can plan out our projects appropriately. This on the screen may be a little hard to see, but this is on our website, so certainly that we're going to go to in a little bit, so certainly you'll be able to check it out there. But this is just another depiction of, over the period of time, just the cumulative of each year, what we brought in for sales tax and the different categories in which we budgeted and expended those. So inside of maintenance, technology, safety, and new construction, what projects were funded throughout the district and how much in each category was expended in each year. We believe that it's very important that everyone that wants to see our taxpayers can always go and get this information, and so we endeavor to keep that out so that people can do their research, focus on the things that they want to focus on, understand what questions they may want to ask, and we're always here to answer whatever questions we have. We want to make sure that we're very transparent, not only on what we're collecting, but how we're spending. And we, of course, have, as Ms. Millay mentioned earlier, our Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee, or what is we affectionately refer to as ISOC, that are here to track our expenditures as third parties and attest to the fact that, yes, we are, in fact, doing what we said we would do with the funds that we're collecting. So if we have some time, I'd like to go to the website so we can show people what they can see and the different information that we have on our website as far as sales tax is concerned. So here on our leeschools.net page is the Change for Change website. And if you come down to the middle of the page, you see there's a bunch of tabs on the page that you can access for different information. The tab I like to go to right now is the one that says Sales Tax Dashboard District-wide. And when you click there and come down to the middle of the page, it shows some overall information related to what we've collected so far and then how those items are budgeted. In the top right-hand corner, you see that there's a choice or a pull-down menu where you could choose different years. So it defaults, of course, to the current year we are in, but when you pull down that menu, you're able to go to any year in which we've had sales tax and either look at any one of those years individually or look at cumulative amounts. And this website really is updated daily so that on any given day, it is up to date based on the action or based on the transactions that have taken place in our system at that point. So this is really helpful for that overall, to see overall across the district, what things are funded, how things are budgeted within each of the categories, and what revenue has taken place so far. And then as you scroll down the page, it even gives you additional detail inside of each of those categories. So within maintenance, there's other detail there in terms of what types of maintenance projects are budgeted for the year and the amount that's been spent to date collectively in that particular category. And that's all locations within those categories. If you want to go and see specifically what's happening at an individual school, then there's another tab for that on the page as well. So coming down to the middle of the page, back at the original where the home page with all the tabs, right? Then you have the sales tax dashboard, individual schools. Yes. And so coming down to the middle of the page there, then you could choose any school you like, click in, and you could see the types of projects that are going on at that particular school at that time. So it really is a plethora of information that shows you how you want to see it, whether you want to see, a particular school, what's happening at my child's school, what's happening in my schools that are in my community, what's happening in the district overall. We think it's a great website for a lot of information related to what's happening for the sales tax across the district. And then in addition, there's other things there. We have another tab for the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee. So any person in the community can always see what the Oversight Committee is seeing. We have recordings of all of the meetings on this page. We also have all of the documentation that has been given to the Oversight Committee on these pages as well. So any meeting that any taxpayer or anybody in the community would want to go check out and see what did we discuss, what kind of questions were asked, what kind of information was given, it's all here on this website for everyone to see and even watch the meeting if they determine that they want to do that. So we think it's a great spot to go get a bunch of information all at once related to the sales tax, including media coverage that has been out about the sales tax as well. So we encourage everyone in our community, our staff, our students, our community to go check out the website because it is a plethora of information.
So we did get some questions, and one of them exactly is about the website, actually a couple. Since you finished with the ISOC and the committee that is overseeing our work, on top of that, one of the questions was about auditing. So is there auditing of the sales tax, or is that the committee's job? Can you go into more detail about that oversight?
Sure. So part of the oversight committee's job is not necessarily an audit function in terms of its technical sense, but the oversight committee does receive the information that we give, and then based on that information does attest to and takes a vote at each meeting that yes, these particular items that are being presented to us do in fact reflect the promise that the school district made to taxpayers about how we would use those funds. As far as auditing of the funds, the auditing of sales tax funds happens with the auditing of the rest of our funds. Each year, the school district does, by statute, go through at least one financial audit that would either be conducted by an independent third-party CPA firm or conducted by the state, the Auditor General's Office of the state, depending on what year it is. And so our sales tax funds would be audited in the process of all of our funds across the district being audited.
And a question about the dashboard for the individual schools, and maybe we can take a look at one just to sort of give the example, but wondering how to read that. There's two columns, estimates and I think spending, and they don't always match. So can you explain what you're looking at when you look at a school's page?
Yep, absolutely. So if we go into a school's page, and I think here we're checking out Bonita High, there are right now $904,000 worth of planned projects that we have out there. If you scroll on down just a little bit, we'll see where they are. Okay, so there are two columns here. So when we go into, for example, the safety upgrades that are planned, well, I'll come on down to the technology projects because that's kind of a larger amount and some more numbers there. So we come on down to the technology projects. Right now, the estimated amount that is shown there is $842,353. In other words, that estimated amount is actually the projected budgeted or the projected budgeted amount budget that we have out there for this particular project that's taking place at Bonita High. And then the other column says amount spent to date, or that is what bills or what invoices have already been paid so far on that project, but, you know, depending on how far that project is along and what invoices we've actually received in to pay. So by the time this project is done, we should be showing close to, you know, $842,000 worth of expenses or expenditures once it's done. The amount that we're showing spent to date is only $16,000, which probably is a little bit of an indication that it's just now kind of getting underway and it has some time in order to finish and complete.
So budget versus what's actually been spent.
Yes.
That's the difference in the two columns. All right.
That is the difference.
A couple other questions that have come in, and one has to do with a topic that was recently before the board, which is about sharing revenue with the city of Cape Coral. They made that request. The board recently made a decision. Can you take us through that?
Yes, I can. So our board did just have a recent discussion related to that request that came in from the City of Cape Coral Charter Schools. And we did discuss at that time the fact that when we originally talked about the referendum, we at that point did not include charter schools within that referendum for various reasons. And so the understanding was when we took it out to the voters that at that point, charters would not be included. However, we do know that there have been various statutory changes since then. So anything that we do in the future, if we go out for a referendum in the future, we would be including, our charter schools within that within any referendum that we do or might do in the future. And so we certainly have an eye out for making sure that we partner with all of our charters in the district, because they are all our students and all in need of an appropriate and optimal learning environment, to make sure that in the future we are maintaining that partnership. In the meantime, we continue to have the conversation open about the different other types of partnerships and different things that we're helping our charter schools to do in order to maximize the revenues that they have.
You mentioned the future. That's another question, too. The tax is for 10 years, so the collections expire in 2028. What kind of considerations would be in place to determine if there would be another effort to extend it?
Well, it certainly would be up to the board that was in place at the time. The board has to vote to put a referendum or a resolution on the ballot in order to be able to go out for another referendum. Certainly, we continue to track in all of our needs across the district in all of these categories. As our buildings age, the need for maintenance gets larger. As we continue to grow and we continue to grow as a district, our need for seats continues. So all of those things we will track. And when we get closer to that time period in which our current sales tax is expiring, of course, we would be doing various analysis and presenting various information to our board, and then it would be up to them to determine at that time whether there was a need for it, whether that was something that they wanted to push for, and then of course, our district will be on board for whatever support effort we need to do in order to help provide the information to make that decision, and should we move forward to hopefully be successful with that.
There was a question that came in about the use of the revenue as well at a time when teacher salaries, even include bus drivers, to entice them to come work for this district. Can the money that's being raised through the sales tax support teacher pay increases?
Not directly. So in the statute, the sales tax has a very specific purpose for how we can use it, which is only for capital type expenditures, which are those things that are basically purchasing of long-term assets or maintaining your long-term assets. So all of the categories that we've described. So specifically can only be used for capital type expenditures, which does not include salaries. However, as I mentioned earlier, some of the things that we're trying to do with these funds, such as our new roofs and our new windows, our new electrical and HVAC systems, all of these things make us more efficient, right? So in terms of if we can increase our efficiency and save operational dollars that way, then those operational dollars, or which are those dollars that can be used for salaries and benefits, those are dollars that then can be redirected back to other items such as salaries and benefits, which is certainly what we're actively trying to do.
So put in those new lights, cut the electric bill. Maybe that money can be applied in a different way.
Absolutely.
Another question was, do we know how many schools, new schools, could be built through the sales tax?
Yeah, well, how many new schools could be built?
Yeah, are planned right now.
Okay. So we know that we have on the slate, and I'll go back to, well, I can't. I'll go back to the slide that we had with our new schools up there. We have right now 2 brand new schools, and then we also have several remodels, including our remodel that we have going on at Riverdale, Franklin Park, and Cypress Lake Middle, as well as Fort Myers Technical Center, which is, our technical center or adult facility. So those are the schools that we have currently active right now. We also have 2 other schools that are on the capital plan this year for, also slated for the East Zone area as well, as that's where we have our largest growth. And one more high school in the east area as well. So I think I'm remembering all of the schools that we have on the slate in the next 5 years as far as our planned growth.
So a lot more expected to come. We're still in the building boom.
Most definitely.
Can you take us back? This was a question. We have a lot of new residents that were not here in 2018. So the question was asked, why was the sales tax needed? So you can take us back to the campaign, 2018.
Absolutely, and actually if we're talking about why the sales tax was needed, we have to go back a little bit farther than that, which would be around 2009, 2010 time frame. So at that time, we were growing at about 1,500 students a year, and just to put it into perspective, that's about a school every year that we would need in order to accommodate that growth across the district. So we were growing at an amazing clip, but at that point we were also experiencing an economic downturn. So we had a recession in which we lost more than half of our property tax value. And so our property taxes at that point were the largest source of revenue that we had for capital. So any money that we were using to either build new schools, to maintain our existing schools, kind of all relied on that major funding source, in addition to impact fees, which at that point were diminished as well. So we lost tens of millions of dollars over even just 1 year time span within our capital revenue. And in addition to, and then to compound that issue, we had major growth across the district over a series of years that we had to accommodate with new schools. Our facilities were aging, and we had to defer some of the maintenance on our existing buildings in order to ensure that we had seats for every student. And so over that period of time, which really lasted, about 7 or 8 years, it really exacerbated the situation of knowing that if we're going to accomplish all of these things, if we're going to accomplish providing the needed seats across the district, and if we're going to accomplish adequately maintaining all of our facilities to make sure that our learning environments are optimal, we need another source of revenue in order to do that, because the ones that we have are not sustaining the need. And that really is where the conversation started related to sales tax.
And one last question is, where would we be without it? What would the district be doing today to meet the growth? Would it be debt? Would it be other things?
Yes, it would definitely have to be debt. And the great thing about it is, as we mentioned a little earlier, there is right now our current revenue that came in for capital, 33% of that is this funding source, which is significant, a third of what we have. And so had we not received this, then we would have had to have stayed on the same pattern to where we were adding debt in order to add additional student stations. The more debt we add, the more, of course, mortgage payment, so to speak, you have to pay, which leaves less money for maintenance of your existing buildings, which means that the maintenance on our existing buildings would have continued to suffer. And as that maintenance continues to suffer, then you have more unexpected breakdowns, which become more costly in terms of having to break those things that fix instead of maintaining the things that you have so that they don't break. So it's a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle that we really don't want to have to be in. And thankfully, with the addition of this funding source that taxpayers entrusted us with, we were able to begin to pull our district out of that cycle and make some great things happen inside of all of our facilities.
All right. And that's the last of our questions. So any final thoughts?
Final thoughts as far as I'm concerned is, again, a big thank you to everyone that's watching and all of our community and taxpayers for giving us the confidence and the trust in order to have this outstanding funding source that really is going to make a generational impact for all of our students, not just the 95,000 students we have today, but generations on of those that will be here 10 years from now that still will be reaping the benefits of what we were able to do with this revenue source that we have. It's an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing for our students, and it's an amazing thing for our community. So thank you.
All right, Dr. Desamore, Ms. Millay, thank you so much for the presentation and keeping us up to date and up to speed on what the sales tax is doing for our students across the school district of Lee County. We appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you to everybody that is watching now or will watch this later. Hopefully you've gotten caught up and learned a lot about what the sales tax is doing for the district. We look forward to seeing you again the next time we're live here on Facebook with an issue important to the school district. Have a great day.